Hello YouTube, this is the Magnum924 here, and I really, really hate when people jump to conclusions without hearing the full story and just blindly following whatever it was that they happened to hear and then jump to conclusions about. Now, one thing that people have jumped to conclusions about over the past, I'd say, 2.5 months or so is this idea that because Nintendo announced the NX, I think it was was it March or into February? I don't really remember. Because Nintendo announced that, even though we have no information about the system or what it is at all, and I've already covered that in previous videos, people are automatically saying that Wii U is dead, Nintendo is dead, Nintendo has no faith in their consoles, they're going mobile, they don't even, they're dropping out of the console business. Like, fans are gonna hate them. They have no games. The Wii U is doomed. Like, okay. Let me just put out here right now. The Wii U is not doomed. Deal with it, people. And I don't want this to come off sounding all fanboyish, but it's the facts. What are the facts that we know about the NX? We know that the NX is a dedicated gaming system or platform. That's the only thing Nintendo has announced about this system. It's a dedicated gaming platform. They didn't call it handheld. They didn't call it console. They just called it a platform, which could even be like a headset, like a VR headset if they wanted it to be. So, automatically assuming that the Wii U is doomed because Nintendo has announced the NX is just crazy to me. Like, people seem to forget that Nintendo almost always releases their handheld first in the generation, and then a year or two later releases the console. The only exception, I think, was for the Game Boy, which came out, after the NES, and then the Game Boy Color, which came out in 1998, maybe? Came out somewhere around there, which was after the SNES. But the Game Boy Advance, DS, and 3DS all came out before their respective console. So, are you really? And people try to justify them saying, "Oh, it's not going to be the handheld because the new 3DS just came out." Nintendo has specifically said that the new 3DS was only meant to expand the life cycle of the 3DS by a few years. The new 3DS came out in Japan on October 2014. Came out in the States and other places in February of 2015. So, if the new 3DS hadn't come out, I could totally see Nintendo just going ahead and making the next handheld in probably as early as 2016. But because the new 3DS came out, they could probably expand it another year and have it be supported through 2017, with it being with the NX being released in 2017 or even 2018 if this is a handheld. And people also seem to forget that Nintendo has been very, very consistent up until the Wii with the 5-year life cycle of their consoles, at least. The NES, 5 years. SNES, 5 years. N64, 5 years. The GameCube, another 5 years. The Wii was 6 years. And I'm almost positive that I'm pretty sure that the PlayStation 1 had a 6-year life cycle and the PlayStation 2 had a 5-year life cycle. I might be mistaken about that, but I'm pretty sure. So consoles in general are pretty consistent up until the 7th generation with the 5-year life cycle. And the Xbox original had a 4-year lifespan. And then the PS3 and 360 had to ruin it, had to mess up the system with I think the 360 is going on 9 years, and the PS3 is going on 8 years. So those are really the only two systems that have left the 5 to 6 year lifespan. So if Nintendo released the NX in 2017, that would be a good 5-year life cycle for the Wii U, being released in 2012 and then it being the successor came out in 2017. That's pretty reasonable, especially for Nintendo consoles. But of course, people act like every generation from here on has to be exactly like the PS4, PS3, and 360 generation, with the system being supported way after their life cycle should have been over. And also, people seem to forget that Nintendo kind of goes on their own schedule. Like, if Nintendo wanted to drop the next system, they can do it whenever they want. They've said multiple times they're in competition with the Sony and Microsoft, but they don't consider them direct competition. They don't base whatever they do, for the most part, on what the competition does. So, even if the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 go on for 10 years, Nintendo isn't going to care. They're going to release 1 to 2 systems in that time frame. Now, what are other reasons that people are saying that the Wii U is doomed? Now, the big one that really set this in motion was Zelda Wii U being delayed, and people assuming again that it would just automatically be an NX title or a cross-gen title. And also, people assuming that Nintendo has no games for 2016. Now, I was originally going to make this video a stupid news article video, but there were just way too many just on these two topics alone for me to just pick one. I had to do a video just on these topics altogether because I couldn't just pick one. Now, Zelda being delayed, is that detrimental for Zelda Wii U for Wii U's 2015 sales? It will definitely hurt them some, because I'm not going to say there's not that one big title this holiday season that will replace Zelda, but there's not one as big as Zelda for sure. Xenoblade Chronicles, if that comes out in November for that Zelda spot, it's not going to be nearly as big. Star Fox isn't nearly as big. Yoshi, Mario Maker maybe, but creation type games, they're not in the same caliber as an actual Mario game or a Legend of Zelda game. And they are gonna have other games this holiday season, like Fatal Frame, like supposedly Devil's Third, like whatever they haven't announced yet that they constantly tell people. This is why I don't understand. People just assume that because Nintendo stated that in their when they announced that Zelda being delayed, they also announced that they're going to be focusing on 2015 titles at E3. People just assume that statement meant, oh, there's not going to be Zelda there at all, period, and they're not going to be talking about any games for 2016. And because they took it that way, I'll get into why it's wrong in a second. Because they took it that way, they just assumed, oh, Wii U has no games for 2016. The NX is coming out next year. Again, jumping to conclusions. And the reason why this baseless assumption is wrong, or at least in my opinion, I think it's incorrect, is because if you think about it, every single Nintendo Direct has a time frame for when they're going to be talking about certain games. Like this past one that happened, I think it was April 7th, maybe? Sometime in April, Was it April? I think it was April. What the mark? It was April, yeah. It was April. They said they're going to be talking about summer titles. But if I recall, the majority of the games that they talked about were fall games. And even a couple that were coming out next year. Let's see. Yoshi's Woolly World, fall 2015. Fatal Frame, fall. Mario Maker, supposedly, I think it's September. Xenoblade Chronicles X, we don't know a date, but we're assuming it's going to be like in the fall somewhere. They even talked about Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, which is a 2016 title. They talked about the new Fire Emblem games, which are going to be 2016 titles for the States. So you really think that Nintendo's saying that they're going to be focusing on Wii U titles, or they're going to be focusing on 2015 titles at E3. They're not going to have anything outside of 2015. Really? Because like I just said, the only games I can think of that were really summer, at least in this last direct, were Splatoon and a couple of eShop games and the Smash Bros. DLC. That was about it. Even Splatoon's a spring title. So I really don't understand why people are just assuming that because Nintendo announced that they're going to be focusing on 2015 titles, that there's going to be nothing for 2016. And if you really think about it, we don't really need to know that much more about Yoshi. We pretty much know, I mean, I'm not going to say we know everything, but we know a lot about that game. We know a lot about Mario Maker. They could have a new trailer for it, of course. But I can't really think of that much more to show that'll take up the entire hour or how much that there will be. Like, maybe they'll talk about Fatal Frame. Maybe, and for Xenoblade, we'll get a release date, I guess, but it's already out in Japan. So everything about that game is already known to the public. And, okay, we'll get more about Star Fox, which is supposedly coming out this year. And maybe, okay, we'll get more on Devil's Third. So that's Star Fox, Devil's Third, Xenoblade, Mario Maker, and Yoshi, which those three we know a lot about already. So really, 2 games I can think of that aren't out anywhere else, and they'll really need to focus on. So what's left? Nintendo has already announced that there are unannounced 2015 games that are going to be showed at E3. I don't know where they'll fit into the schedule because fall is pretty packed right now. So, and yeah, I'll have to shade the thought for a second. Sorry, but do you get my point? Because Nintendo, so okay. Again, I lost my train of thought. Let me get back here. So, people just assume that because Nintendo hasn't announced anything other than Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem and technically Zelda, Nintendo hasn't announced anything outside of those two for 2016, that there's just going to be nothing. There's nothing outside of 2015 that Nintendo has to announce. The NX is coming next year. And because of that, Wii U is doomed, and the NX is coming out next year. Yeah. Okay. Now, people over the years have seemed to misconstrue what the word doomed means. So, for a long time, Nintendo was doomed since 2012 because they haven't been making a profit. Oddly enough, they made a profit this past fiscal year. Interesting. Supposedly the Wii U is doomed because it's not the highest selling console. People seem to forget that the Wii U, Nintendo has stated on a multiple times that the Wii U, if people buy at least one game with it, is profitable. And the Wii U has the highest attach rate of any of the consoles right now. So people clearly buy at least one game when they buy their Wii U. So clearly the system is profitable. So how is the Wii U doomed? If it's making a profit, and coincidentally, it's actually the sales for the Wii U have been up year on year. Sales in March this year were up, I think, 20% over last year's March. And so what? We got Mario Party 10 and Kirby Rainbow Curse. Those two games they've been doing okay, especially Mario Party 10, but they're not that big of a game, really. So why are the sales up? People also seem to think that a console needs one game to save the system. I saw an article just yesterday. Is Splatoon that one game that'll save the Wii U? I'm going to say no. You want to know why? Because it's not just one game that saves the system. It's multiple games. Like, how can just one game carry an entire console? One game can't appeal to everybody. Smash Bros. Doesn't appeal to everybody. I know many people who just don't like fighters and don't like the mechanics of Smash Bros. So they don't play it. One game can't... Mario Kart, which a lot of people were saying that game is going to be the game to save the Wii U. And for the most part, it did increase sales a lot. In fact, May, June, and July sales of last year were up 50% over the previous year, if I'm not mistaken. That's pretty good. But everyone isn't going to like Mario. Everyone isn't going to like racing games. Everyone isn't going to like the Mario Kart mechanics. So one game can't appeal to everybody. So clearly one game can't be the savior of a system. It's multiple games. It's good for a system to have a fighter. It's good for a system to have a racing game. It's good for a system to have an action game like Bayonetta 2 and Hyrule Warriors. It's good for a system to have shooting games like Splatoon. It's good for a system to have platforming games like Mario U and Yoshi and Donkey Kong. All of these games combined together are what will save the Wii U. Will save the Wii U. Now, I will say this, if Zelda comes out and the Wii U still is selling poorly, I'm not gonna say that Zelda not pushing numbers that high. I'm not gonna say that failed, but Zelda is a title that, if there was going to be one specific title that could save the Wii U, I honestly think it would be Zelda. Because it's not their longest standing title by far, but it's definitely the title that has the most, I think it has the biggest following. Cult following, really. Because Mario titles obviously outsell Zelda, but Zelda, I think it's way more popular with the press, for sure. And I think it just has more dedicated fans. So if the fans of Zelda don't go out and buy a Wii U for Zelda Wii U, then I think there is a problem. But still, having Zelda alone isn't going to save the Wii U. Having Zelda along with Smash Bros., along with Mario Kart, along with all the games I've listed already, that is what will keep the system afloat up until the NX is released. If it is the next console or the fusion device like I and a lot of other people think and want it to be. Now, is the Wii U the lowest selling console right now? Yes, it's only at 9.4 million sold. It hasn't even broken 10 million yet, whereas the Xbox One, which people consider to be a flop for some reason, has already passed 13 million, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, PlayStation 4's up. They're selling 23 million units, but I honestly don't know how that's happening. Again, I'm not trying to sound like a fanboy, but I honestly don't see how the PlayStation 4 has been selling. The only real game it has is The Last of Us Remastered, and that's again a remastered game. It's all about hype, really. That's and the fact that Xbox One kind of was failing even before it was announced, before it was released. So, yeah. Now, I'm just gonna go into a couple of things that, assuming that the NX is the console hybrid or just the console itself, a couple of things that the Wii U that the NX has to have, which I guess this would be considered the next generation. Even if it is just the Nintendo console, it would be the next Nintendo generation, let's put it that way. The NX has to have at least as much power as the PlayStation 4, preferably more, to make it outlast the PlayStation 4 and even maybe try to compete with the PlayStation 5 and what Xbox 2 were at, or whatever. Of course, assuming that those consoles are even going to be made. I'll get into that in just a second too. The NX also has to have sophisticated online features. Even if we have to pay for it, I would be okay with that. I know the main draw, or the main thing that Nintendo fans have over PlayStation 4 and Xbox One right now is that we have free online. But that comes at the cost of not having streaming features, voice chat, cross-game chat. We don't have the ability to open multiple apps at the same time, open multiple web browsers at the same time, stuff like that. So even if we had to pay for special features like that, I would personally be okay with that if they priced it reasonably, at $5 a month or something. The Wii U also has to have killer apps right out of the gate. Do not release this system until the games are ready. That was one of the main things that Nintendo did wrong with this generation. The Wii U, it released with Zombie U, a couple of third-party games, and New Super Mario Bros. U and Nintendo Land, but that was bundled. We were expected to get Pikmin 3 and Wonderful 101 at launch too. That would have really helped. But no, they were pushed all the way until August and September of the following year. That really killed the hype, because we had no games. Well, we had maybe 2 or 3 games, really, period, between launch and August of that year. So this system needs to have at least 4 to 5 high-quality first-party games out of the gate. And it also needs to have third-party support. And I have a feeling that third parties will come to the system if it's powerful enough. It also, please make it run on x86 architecture, or at least something more similar to the PC than the PC power PC that the Wii U is running in right now. That's one of the main complaints that third parties have. It's way too different than the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, so they just don't like dealing with it. Plus, it's less powerful to boot. So the Wii U has to be at least as powerful as PlayStation 4, has to run on similar architecture as a PC, so that third parties can then port games to it, and also it needs to have sophisticated online features and games right out of the gate, and quick support from then on. Because if you have 4 games right out of the gate and then you have nothing until summer or even fall, that would kill all hype that the system had to start with. So I mentioned earlier that I would go into reasons why PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, I have a feeling that their successor might not even happen. So while people were saying that, oh, Nintendo was doomed because they haven't made any money for the past 3 years, people conveniently leave out that Xbox One hasn't made a dime since the Xbox original has come out. Hasn't made a single cent. And the only reason people ignore this is because Microsoft combines the losses that they make with the Xbox One and also their tablets, which They combine those with other assets that they have and other parts of the business that they're actually making money in. They group the parts that are actually making money. I think they group their what was it? They group their entertainment business as a whole as they put the Xbox with their entertainment division. So it made it look like the Xbox One or Xbox in general wasn't losing money, while the other parts of their entertainment business actually were making money, and they were able to offset the Xbox One losses. And PlayStation 4. Sony, you haven't made any money, period, since I think it was 2008 or 2012. And you've been losing billions of dollars every single year since then. Nintendo's only, I think, their highest loss in the past 3 years was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was $440 million. Sony lost $1.09 billion this past fiscal year, from what I've heard. Is the PlayStation division making money? Yes, it is, because it's selling so freaking well. Is Sony as a whole making money? No. Now, the only way I see the PlayStation 5 coming out is if they spin off the PlayStation division as its own thing, as its own entity. Maybe even have it being bought up by someone else, and them kind of overseeing the process. Because I honestly, if the PlayStation 4 does last 10 years, Sony, I fear they won't be around that long. Because they're not making any money off of their TVs. Not making any money off of their phones, off of their cameras. They're not making any money off of anything but the PlayStation. And all of those losses counteract the profits they're making off the PlayStation. And for Xbox, there has been a lot of talk from the executives about the Xbox division being just gone if the Xbox One can't make them any profit. And as of right now, it's not really. They've already had to slash the price twice. And you really think slashing the price of a $500 system all the way down to $350 is making them money? No, it's not. I guarantee it's not. So, people who are saying that Wii U is doomed, shut up. I've already given you like 5 reasons as to why it's not. Maybe you should, pay attention to the external factors, pay attention to the facts, which in this case we have very little, and just wait until all of the facts are revealed. Wait until all the information on a topic or a situation is out before you start jumping to conclusions and make stupid articles about it, or just talking about it in general. I waited 2.5 months before I made this video. I could have very easily made this video the day after Zelda Wii U was delayed and the NX was announced and all this stuff. But I didn't. I waited. I waited until all the information came out. In fact, I waited until I made sure that Nintendo was making a profit. I made sure that the Wii U sales were up. And they are. So, leave your comments down below when do you think the NX will come out. And also, leave your comments about just anything about this topic. Leave a comment if you think PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2 will happen. Leave your comment about if you honestly think the Wii U is doomed. Leave your comment as to why, and maybe we'll have a little discussion about it. I really want to hear you guys' opinion about this. So, this is Vagabond24. See ya.